Hey everybody, Mark Chen here with my battle buddy, Jayelene Harris. And do you know where she is? Where are you?
Way up in Alaska.
Why?
Because it's cooler up here than where everyone else is.
There's truth to that. Yeah. Did you grow up in Alaska?
I'm actually from Hawaii, and then my parents moved up here when I was around 8, 9 years old. And I've moved all over the US, but I've always considered Alaska my home base.
That's neat. See,
Yeah.
now I've never quite understood islanders, warm, tropical, and then in Alaska, it's like, hello? I mean, it's cold up there, gosh darn it.
It is, but there's a great deal more space and a lot of connection to the land.
That is,
So right. So we have a lot of First Nations or Native tribes up here as well.
oh yeah,
And there's actually a lot of history between the Hawaiian Islands and Alaska.
I bet.
So, yeah,
Probably a lot of trade.
there
Uh,
was even during the whaling and further back. But one of the things I think why local islanders enjoy Alaska is because of a fishing, being close to, the mountains and just more of a subsistence lifestyle. It resonates with, I think,
yeah.
a lot of island people.
And just yeah, just the greater connection with the land because
Yes, it's very much so like that.
yeah,
Where you're governed primarily not by a clock, but by the seasons.
yeah.
At
It's
least my family has
yeah,
been that way. To even whether it's fishing in July to harvesting in August, to everything is set by the rhythm of the seasons, which I find very comforting.
nice,
Yeah.
nice. I've grown up in Southern California, native Los Angelino, and been in and around Southern California all my life. So not a lot of variance there, but I
Did
love
you travel?
California.
Oh, California is nice too. I've been down in San Diego, spent a little time down there. That's as I haven't gone north, but I would like to see, the great redwoods there and
Yeah,
the sequoias. Sounds
and
beautiful.
then the Sierra Mountains are just, the whole Sierra Range is just awesome. If you ever get a chance to see the eastern side of the Sierras, it'll be slightly reminiscent of a lot of the views that you'll see in Alaska.
Oh yes.
It's really nice, very rough, craggy peaks, and you go, yeah, okay, those mountains.
All right. I think that's the thing is being here, it's not hills, they're actual mountains.
Yeah,
Unlike some places, like when I visit and I actually have property down in Tennessee, and people say, the mountains. I'm like, well, rolling hills are not quite. When you get further east, then there's
right.
actual mountains, and those are beautiful too. But
Yep.
we're spoiled with having majestic mountains here in Alaska.
Yeah. Denali. Oh my.
Yes.
Huge. Very cool. So, what has gotten you into this fun group of folk? Uh,
Oh, with the gators and
Gators
sub
and
two.
yeah, Pace Morby and all of his wacky stuff going on.
It's always like, okay, what's next? What's next? And it actually is moving quite fast, it seems. I've only been a gator for about 4 or 5 weeks. And already we're doing this project, right? Project Forward, which is within Gator.
Right.
But, he's giving us lots of homework and it's not even homework. It's more of build your business, build your network, move. And I had not even thought about this avenue until maybe a few months ago when I actually abruptly about getting a divorce. So
Uh,
my trajectory
ouch.
was, yes, life said, we're going to a different direction.
Yeah.
So in March, mm, going through figuring out to needing to actually file for divorce, which was unexpected for me. And I was busy for the last 4 years building our jerky company with my husband. And so this was, I had talked to my husband about investment because when you're generating so much through a company, I don't want to pay taxes, but I want to do it legally, right?
Right.
So, how do you
Right.
offset your taxes? And I had asked him multitude of times to start, for us to start. And for some reason, he did not want to. And neither of us actually understood to the level that I do now, which I'm so thankful. So I've bought real estate before, but now that I think about it, I actually was doing creative financing with those. And I didn't know that's what it was called. It was more of, this is what I have. Will you take what I have right now? And can I pay over these terms? And I didn't realize that it's actually a thing. And so I think it's kind of funny that I've been doing it simply out of necessity, right? To be creative and needing to be resourceful, but actually having a tribe of people who this is their primary way of doing things. And actually, my brother a couple of years ago wanted to move out of Alaska. He moved down to Mexico, and he had a house, and he was wanting to sell his house. And then he asked the siblings, does anyone want it, basically? And he just wanted to get rid of it. And so I asked my husband, I said, well, can we buy it? And so we didn't buy it yet, just because we were waiting for our finances or whatever my husband's reasoning was.
Right.
And so actually we that's where he and I had we stayed there quite a bit. And then after I started the divorce, then we moved out, and I was looking at conventional ways of lending, which
Right.
I do not want to pay 7%.
And rising.
And rising, exactly. So I'm like, what do I do? And then I started listening to Cody Sanchez, I
Okay.
believe
Yep.
in May and June. And then Pace's videos started popping up because it's a long seller financing. And I'm like,
Sure.
who is this guy? I'm like, swiped. I didn't look at it for a while. I'm like, I'm just trying to watch Cody's material. And then I clicked on Pace, and then I clicked on more of his, and actually learned that I can get this house. Basically, it's a sub two deal. Didn't know that's what we were doing.
Right.
And actually, we signed the paperwork, and we are under contract now,
Oh,
which I
very good.
am super excited. And everything looks smooth. And right now, I'm working with a TC who has access to PMLs, but I'm actually wanting to work in my circle to
Sure.
start seeing if the people I know, my friends and family, want to be a PML, because
Right.
I know everyone has money. So I'm like, how do I massage that and say, hey, do you want to go on a deal with me? So
Yep.
that's what I'm working on right now, is finding me a PML.
There you
And
go.
yeah, so
Well, that's
that's kind of how I got into it.
very cool. And that's also like you listen to Pace's story. He talks about his dad telling him, well, basically, how do you think we bought all the houses that we lived in? Like, oh, okay. And just, you know, he's taken it to a whole nother level.
Yes, he's like, I'm gonna do it with everything. I think that's great though. And it's not like, for me now, it's not just driven out of necessity and to be resourceful, but that it's just a primary way of how to think of the world differently, especially with real estate, right? So many people think I need 20% to 30% to put down. And now we're like, no, I don't need that at all. I just need to find a good deal. And if the
Right.
numbers look good, and if it's cash flowing, or the cash on cash return looks great, then we're good to go. So that's a very different way. I didn't think of real estate in that terms at all before.
Yeah. And especially going into, the way the market is unfolding right now.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you know, I listened to one guy, and he's a former economist. And what he talks about is when you listen to certain people, they'll say, oh, housing's going to crash, blah, 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 blah. But he gets into the actual numbers and everything behind it. And what's really crashing is the number of transactions, because people can't sell or don't want to sell because
Mm-hmm.
you have so many people that are um, they want to be trade up buyers. So they want to get their next house, but they're looking going, wait, with the
No
interest rates
way.
what they are now, I'll spend more and have less house.
All right.
I'm hanging on to what I've got,
Yeah.
especially since I've got a 2, 3, 4% loan. That's my asset. And so, sales are down because people are going, I'm not doing this. And the lower part of the market from like median on down, prices are still maintaining. Some markets are down a little bit, but
Oh
they've
no.
only lost maybe 10% in certain markets. Other markets, it's still hot.
It is.
And
It
it's
is.
just like, So unconventional financing is really the way to go. Because if you're going to get a deal, that's who wants to pay outrageous sums to just to get a house. And they won't cash flow if you're doing it as an investor.
Well, and then there's no point to buy it then.
Nope.
Right. If you're going to bleed from that property, you're like, no, I'm a pass on you. Thank
Yep.
you.
So, what other kind of you mentioned you and your husband have or had a jerky business?
Yes. So we're based out of Georgia
Okay,
and we've had it for about 4 years and it does well. And really, if he and I were still together, I would not have even pushed to go in this direction. I was comfortable.
sure.
Does that make sense? So I'm like, it's fine. And now that life said, well, I'm going to make you uncomfortable. So
Yeah.
what are you going to do now?
Let's see you
So
pivot. I want to
yes,
see this one.
yes, it's
I've got
very much a pivot hard
yeah,
quickly. And that was the other point too in July, me losing the ability to walk normally. So it's like, okay, pivot again. How do I do that? How do I work? Which I relied, of course, naturally, heavily on my physicality to do things. And now, right, Gator gives me the opportunity to work with my mind and not necessarily with my physical being.
yep,
And I can provide in that way. So
cool.
that's, mm, I'm thankful for that avenue.
And the internet. No internet, none of this is happening.
That's true. I had to upgrade my internet because I kept dropping on calls. I'm like, no, let me get a business internet so it's nice and clear.
Very cool.
Mhm.
It's like, oh,
Yes.
okay, here I need this little step up. It's have you ever read the story of Ray Kroc and McDonald's?
No, tell me.
Um, Part of the story is after he worked for a company called Multimixer, and one of his fellow salesmen ran into the McDonald's brothers in Riverside,
Okay.
California, and he called up Ray and said, "Ray, you need to come out here and see this." So he did, and there's a whole story behind that. Uh, but one of the stories is about the very first McDonald's franchisee. And he talked to this couple, he got them interested. They helped establish, and they were like the first students in what they called Hamburger University. And like every time they turned around, there was something new to do, something they had to do, something they had to spend money on. And it finally came down to like they're opening their first store, and they had to go to the bank and get money for change so that they could make change for people. And yeah, they were having a hissy fit because like this is just one more thing you're making us spend money on. If I'd have known this at the beginning, I wouldn't have done this. And he said,
Mhm.
that's exactly why I didn't tell you up front. Now you're going through the process. You'll be wonderful. It'll be fine. But life is kind of like that. Oh, here's another little thing. Oh, good. You
Yes.
got that right. Ah, okay. You figured that one out. Fantastic. Here's another one. Bing. Like, ugh,
Oh,
geez.
you think you got it? You
Yeah.
think, right? Let's put your all of your theoretics into actual doing. And
Yeah,
that's what it feels like. Well, you think you can handle, let's see what you can do. And to me, adversity brings out your core. And for me to have grace and still move and be kind in the midst of, for me, a great deal of difficulty
there you go.
is actually, necessary. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about Gator is having this community, and the creative finance community has helped me a great deal. It's allowed me to put my focus in a direction with a lot of other people who are wanting to do the same thing, just like you. And, I'm curious what brought you into Gator.
Well, nice segue. Well done.
Oh, thank you.
Ta-da. So I am at the other end of the scale as far as age. And always been kind of interested in real estate, but not really wanting to take the plunge. Never read the Purple Bible, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Oh, yes.
Understand the concepts of it, or at
Hmm.
least a lot of it, but never really got into it thinking, it's going to take too much money, too much whatever. Um, and I've had several different careers as life has unfolded,
Okay.
outside sales, in a specific industry. If you've ever heard of, you see it up there all the time in construction, you got, wire rope and rigging and safety harnesses, things like that. Um, Worked for a company designing and building fall protection harnesses and lanyards and systems and things. Then
Nice.
worked for a small rigging house and sold wire rope rigging, crane stuff for cranes, all sorts of neat things. That was that was a lot of problem solving. It's like, how are we gonna do
Right.
this? Like, let's see here. Well, if you do this, then you're gonna need that, and then you can attach it to this thing, and then you can lift it. Like, oh, cool. Okay. And here's your, $3,000 sling to do it. Like,
Only 3 grand. That's it.
yeah,
Nothing too
cheap.
much.
Yeah. So, a lot of different things. I've also been a professional photographer at one point, specializing in things with motors, cars, boats, planes. Not a lot of planes, but lots of cars, boats, and motorcycles. And that was a lot of fun. Um, going to
That does
race,
sound fun.
going to races, taking pictures, not getting hit.
That's a bonus.
Yeah. Um, and getting to the point where it's like, okay, we've got a nest egg built up, need to deploy it. And there's some friends of ours have a project we're deploying healthy sum as private money lenders, but
Awesome.
ran
Awesome.
into Pace's stuff last year,
Hmm.
and started looking at it going, okay, this is starting to make sense. Yeah, like, little things you hear over time and you go, I don't get it. I don't get it. Well, now I'm starting to
No,
get it. Like,
yeah.
this is good.
That's exciting. You're like, "Oh, it wasn't that hard. How come I took so long to get that?" Yes.
And part of it was actual fear because I bought into a franchise, home improvement type franchise in 2008. And
Oh, wow.
yeah,
That year.
you know where this is going. Um,
Do tell.
yeah, doing the wire open rigging during 2007, early part of 2007, I could start to see a lot of our clients who were the quarries all around Southern California, Cemex, Robertson's, Ready Mix, um, Hanson Aggregate, Vulcan Materials. They were our cornerstone. And we could see that their sales were dropping, dropping, dropping. We got to mid-year 2007, and it's like, okay, this is definitely a sign. We'll
Something's
talk
wrong.
to them, and a lot of the clients were people that used sand, cement, aggregate for making pipeline and all sorts of things. Their sales were down because the home builders who were going gangbusters up till then suddenly said,
Nope.
ding, we're done.
Yeah.
And cut way, way back. Therefore, there was no need for infrastructure. Therefore, there was way lower need for concrete. So I started looking for a business, thinking, I'm smart. I can do this. Yeah. Okay. And it's one of those things you don't know what you don't know till you find out. Oh,
Yes, I don't know.
yeah,
Exactly. That's why I didn't want to do that with Gator or even
right,
a business acquiring a business. I'm like, I'm gonna go easy because like you
right,
just said, you'll get hurt from things you have no clue what you're doing.
right. And
Mhm.
it's like, yeehaw. Um, Finally, I talked to a franchise. Oh, crap. Okay. So we're going to be out of
We
time.
have
We got
nine
10 minutes.
minutes.
Okay. We got 10 minutes. We'll wrap this up.
Sounds
Um,
good.
so where was I? Da, 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 um talked to a franchise sales guy.
Mhm.
sales group. Actually, we talked to a couple of them, and as it ends up, um, they are used car salesmen, but
Okay.
that's a whole other thing. So anyway, found out that with a franchise, what you do is they call it a business in a box, and it is. The thing that they don't really emphasize is that the business itself, how to run it, how to do all the things within the business, they sell that to you in a way.
Okay.
What they don't do is really uh, when you buy a major franchise, what's the key thing that you are buying from them or with them? Their market.
Structure.
No, no, no,
Yeah. Oh,
not structure.
okay. Gotcha.
Structure kind of a given, at least in my
Hmm.
view. What you're
Gotcha.
really buying is name recognition, the branding, the marketing. When you buy something that's not a major, you become the marketing arm for them for your local market. And the problem with that is that takes a lot of time and money. And so you can spend 150 grand just getting off the ground during the
Hmm.
first year. You need to spend another 150 to 200 for all the marketing you need to do over the next year and the next year and the next year to really get your name out there and build it up. If you don't have the money to do the marketing and sales and so on and so forth and survive, you're not going to make it. That's just my view. If you can't, there some of the business people, gurus, yada yada, they'll say, "Hey, franchising is great." Well, if you have something that you can do and integrate it into something that you have, yes. If you're starting from ground floor zero, mm, I I would argue time. So anyway, went through that, had to give it up during the next year, and that's partially because, we bought in August 2008. Lehman Brothers went toes up in September. It's like,
Oh,
ah, crap. Because I felt like, okay, may not do great the first year, but as long as everything stays kind of status quo, we'll be
mhm.
okay. We can make it through and we'll build it up. It didn't stay status quo.
No, it didn't. Not at all.
No, stock market went, took its tumble of 40%. People suddenly felt like I'm not spending that much money on to get my house painted. What are you crazy? Typical exterior, if it's a good quality job, decent sized house, 5 grand. They're saying, nah, I got guy down the street will do it for 35.
All right.
And with the debt structure that you get saddled with a franchise, there's no way. I can't beat, the guy that just got fired off of his job in
Right.
construction who has a truck and a paintbrush.
And he's desperate, right?
Yeah,
He's like, I'll do what can I get from you
yeah,
just to feed his family.
right.
Hmm.
He'll work for wages without all that debt structure that to support. So it was rough.
It was
So we ended up, yeah. So we ended up going BK and the typical,
oh,
yeah.
you've learned a lot, I'm sure, from that
Hi.
experience.
Um, this is about 3 years later, did the whole BK thing. Nicely that we did it then because we also ran into something really cool. Um, at that point, the banks had learned we don't like all this housing inventory. Let's
Yeah.
reset your loan. It's like,
Wow.
okay, we'll do that.
Please do that.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
definitely.
wipe out a bunch of debt, but got to keep the house, which was
Nice.
excellent. And
Wonderful.
so been working at a major big box retailer since then because my God, it was tough to find a job. So anyway, um, have had a fair amount of fear of failure. It's like, man, I just don't want to screw up and lose our nest egg. But in looking at this, it's like, okay, is it a sure thing? It's about as sure as it's going to get. Um,
It's a
minimal,
lot safer too.
yeah. Especially when you can back things up with, okay, if I invest this much, I can expect this rate of return, and it's backed up by a piece of property that
Exactly.
they mess up. Guess what I get?
I get your property or part of it. Yes, exactly.
So that's kind of my nutshell story. And that's why I'm here because I'm looking, going, okay, I can start off with little chunks, make them bigger chunks. Let's go.
And so, have you done any Gator deals yet?
Not yet. Working on
Oh,
it.
gotcha.
I
Well,
will.
yeah, of course. Well, I think it's awesome that you're gaining your circle of PMLs, because that's kind of what I'm doing as well with my family
Yep.
and friends. Just looking there first and wanting to see if, hey, anybody you want to make some money with me? And if you don't, that's fine too. But
Yep. Yep. And like, the biggest thing is like sub two is a community. Gator is a community. Real estate is a community game where everyone gets to play and everyone gets to profit if it's done right.
right, well, I think maybe in my mind, real estate was much more competitive. I mean, I guess there is an element, but somehow with these two communities, it's more of collaboration than let me slit your throat so I can get my tiny 3% versus like, how about you get this much and I get this much? We both get, you know.
Right.
So I think that's the shift that is different with our
Yeah.
community. Hmm.
Yep. Hi, I get to help you drag it across the finish line and we both share. It's
Right.
a good deal.
Which you don't normally hear that when you think of real estate. You think
No.
of these guys, and then there's the agents, and then you're over here like this small buyer. Like, wait, I'm why do I feel so intimidated? Because you're supposed to be helping me.
Yep.
And it's a different take. And I'm thankful now I understand the process much more. And I feel a little reckless in the past that I signed the papers because I trusted the agents at the time or whoever I was talking to, but not fully understanding, what title versus escrow is and all these different documents. And now I have a better idea, which makes me feel more confident in that.
Yay. Well,
Yes.
cool. Well, thank you so much for joining together today. This is
Yeah.
awesome.
I appreciate it too.
Hey, Jaylene, thank you so much. Great time together. Thank you for sharing your story. And let's do some deals.
Oh, absolutely. Now that I have my first sub two deal that's under contract, my focus can now go into hopefully a Gator deal.
Right on.
Yes.
We'll make it happen out there. You have a wonderful time and we'll talk to you soon, battle buddy.
Yes. Take care.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.